All right, Mississauga, we are back, and yeah, exciting times. The world is changing, and I'm finding guests from all around the world, and we're going to have a conversation, and we're going to keep it real right here. Today, my guest is all the way from Australia. My last couple of guests this year have been from Australia, so my energies are aligning with Australia this year, and amazing people. And I came across our guest through Instagram, and I was quite intrigued. And when I say quite intrigued, I was really interested because I've never really had a guest that actually talked about the power of dowsing rods. And she's a master. And not only along with that, but she has other amazing, amazing skills. One of them being investigative mediumship, which she's done over 20 years. She supports and expands conscious expansion and just empowering the sovereign self. And she has this whole coaching program. And before we get into the whole conversation, Irena, I want to welcome you to Keeping It Real.
Hello. It's great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get to know you a little bit. You've been making your rounds on social media with these the dowsing rods. But before we get there, I want to get to know you a little bit. And it's probably a question that you probably heard many, many times. But how did you get into this, area of expansion, healing? Is this something that was ingrained in you as a little child and you finally sort of flourished? Or was this like a life-changing event, something happened and then you got into it?
I think that it was something that happened around the age of 20. So at a young age, I definitely had very different perspectives on the world and I really struggled being here. I really, really struggled. I didn't understand the systems. None of them made sense to me. And I didn't understand why other people weren't asking the questions that I was asking. And it really wasn't until my adulthood that I realized that what I was experiencing and perceiving wasn't exactly the same as everyone else. And that's why I was struggling so much because I was finding it very hard to relate to people who were perceiving reality in the same way. I don't think that I'm a special person. I don't have that kind of mindset. I think we're all special. I think I'm just tapping into something or have been able to experience an accelerated version of these abilities on some natural level for whatever reason. But I think all humans actually have this capability. So I would probably say around the age of 20, that's when it started to really come online for me.
Yeah, it's interesting just listening to what you're saying, Arena, because with a lot of the guests that I have, it usually breaks down into two. It's either they had these special skills and they didn't know what to do with it, or there was like this life-changing event and boom, everything came together. And I remember in an earlier conversation that I sent to you, I had said, I would love to have you come on because the world is going through a change right now. There's a lot of shift that's happening. And in the work that you do, um, when and yeah, when did you see the shift happening? Even though you had your own, I guess if I can say, awakening, but when did you see the world changing? Like you were a very curious person, you asked questions that the average person didn't, and then the bigger picture is like you see that the world is going through a change. Again, I don't want to put anything in your mouth, but the world is definitely going through a change, isn't
Oh yeah, big time. I think it's a really good question because it's more so different timelines manifesting and different waves of consciousness expanding, which are impacting people differently at different times. So I would say the first real expansion was about 2012, and that's when I started to really accelerate. So I'd had about 5 years of starting to experience stuff started where I started to kind of break free of certain programs, I think, within this reality. So that was around 2012. The second really big wave happened just before 2020. So 2019, 2020, around COVID, that's when the other huge acceleration happened. which is very, very obvious. I think there's probably people who are like, oh, yeah, that was me. You know what I mean? Or I started to realize that. And it all happened for a reason. But they were the two biggest waves. And we're going to continue to experience different accelerations. We did mid last year for a very small group of people. It's like time almost, or reality started to be experienced a little bit faster. So that happened about mid last year, probably around August. And then this year, in April, another acceleration happened. And
Yes.
we're just come out of that cycle now in July, and now it's going to accelerate even further. So April and July have been this really particular transition where I think more people will come online into their authenticity specifically. And then pretty much now until the end of the year, it's going to be pretty full on, pretty chaotic. But how much work or preparation work that you have done will determine how you actually experience that individually. And then the next cycle will probably happen around 2028. There's always mini ones that happen throughout the year, but 2028 is probably the much bigger one. And then the next one again, probably being around 2032.
It's so fascinating, with the guests that have come on. Doesn't matter what your ethnic background, what culture, Christianity. I'm Hindu myself, and the message is the same. Um, there's an awakening happen. There's an awakening, a change. The apocalypse, and there's so much that's going on. It's the same message, and I guess those who are not ready, they're either going to feel the brunt of this pain or suffering or the work that they're doing within. And if I guess if they're not doing it, it's time to say goodbye. Do you know what I mean? Like it could be, from my experience, it's just that those who are not ready, it's time. Okay, they leave their body almost if they're not ready to do the work. Um, do you see people are ready to do this shift and this work?
Well, with that August period, I said last year how reality accelerated on some level,
Yeah,
which would make time feel like it's going faster.
yeah.
That was really more about timeline splitting. And or in April earlier this year, it started to split even more. And so you will experience, depending on where you are at in your journey, and there's no one who's better than anyone else. It's not got nothing to do. We're all walking each other home, basically, and we're all just doing it at different rates for whatever reason. So there's no judgment, to anyone wherever that in their journey. I wanted to just make that clear first. But I think that people will play different roles going forward, and those timelines will keep going and solidifying, and they're vibrational timelines. So it's not like there's a new earth and we're going to split onto another planet. It's not like that. You're just going to experience a frequency shift, and
Yeah.
you'll experience that in a different accelerated way to other people. And this year it's going to become very obvious if people are not meant to be in your life, or that chapter is done with those people. I'm talking really close people that you might have known your entire life since you were a child, and you would call them one of your besties and one of your ride or dies. They will just phase out like that. If they are not in alignment with the frequency that you're on, they'll just phase out, and you won't be able to feel them, or you won't be so connected or merged with them anymore. So that it's basically more of a timeline split. And so people will be on that path, or people will be on that path. So that, for in my opinion, it's not that they're going to suffer and burn or lose themselves in any way. It's just they'll be on that timeline where certain distortions are being experienced on a different level.
Okay. No, I got that. Just to let you know, your camera is frozen. So you may want to
Oh,
just
okay.
turn off your camera and then just turn. Then you can. Or hold on, maybe if I can do it at my side.
Yeah, I'm not frozen on my end.
Oh, really? Eh? Okay, that's strange. Okay, hold on. Okay. You can see me, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're not
Okay.
frozen either.
So just to let our listeners know, when I have my guest on, we have a conversation and we can actually see each other. But when it's released, it's audio only. You alluded to the fact that Irena, that 2026 and 2028 is going to be a very change of frequencies. And I have people that I know, and they don't say frequency, they mostly say, oh, it's going to be bad. Like if you don't, like it's going to be a time where things are going to, like it's like an earthquake almost, like things are going to
Mhm.
shift from inside.
Mhm.
So when you say 2026, then you said 2028, and then you said 2032. Is that what it is? It's just clearing of the self, letting go of whatever's not serving us anymore.
Um, I think it is going to be chaotic. I would agree with those statements that it's going to be stressful or that we are going to feel a disruption within the collective energies. And I think that everyone will experience that on some extent. I think everyone's going to experience the global economy uh, going through a massive shift, but that's because, paradigms are falling. So it's not necessarily that it is destructive. It is just part of old paradigms falling and us going into new cycles. So cycles ending, new cycles beginning. Which cycle you enter depends on your own vibration and frequency. I always note that because it is foundational to the construct of this reality. That's why I have to note that because everything is determined by your frequency and vibration. Like that's it. It's there's like you can't escape that uh that fact.
No, it's true. It's absolutely true. I'm going to sort of segue here a little bit and really go into some areas of specialties that you sort of experienced. And a lot of your videos, you do a lot of where you answer questions using dowsing rods. And I'm not going to ask you to, I'm not going to put you on the spot and do one, but I really want to get to understand how the dowsing rods work, and what's the science behind it, and maybe some of my listeners who are hearing this for the first time, just to give them an understanding. And then maybe I can ask you questions from the work that you've done, and just to have some fun with that afterwards, with some of the videos that you've done in the past. So what is dowsing rods? What is the science? How does it work, and how did you get into it?
So dowsing rods are most famous for water dowsing. So you may have seen the two copper or brass sticks or even wooden sticks in some traditional methods where people will use them on for farming, for finding water. There's different scenarios, but that came from Europe. I think Germany was probably where it was first really made famous. But again, Europe has a huge occult history as well. Everywhere does. Europe has its own different type of occult frequency. So that really came out a few centuries ago. So this is very old from Western understanding. But dowsing rods actually go back further than that. That's just how the Western world made them famous. But dowsing is really just using different minerals and elements in the same way that you would use a pendulum. You can potentially compare it to a Ouija board. It all comes down to minerals and elements that you're using to communicate to other layers of reality. And that is essentially what dowsing rods are too. And that's why it's not limited to locating water. I get sometimes a bit of hate because they're like, you're abusing it. You're not meant to be using it for that. You're not meant to be communicating through it. You're meant to be using it for water dowsing. And I'm like, how do you think they're finding the water? Do you know? Because they're also using their rods to communicate to other aspects or layers of reality. Or they're also combining the use of those minerals and elements of what they're using to attract or gravitate to other minerals and elements. you know, so you could find gold. There's other minerals you can locate. So they are attracted to those things, but you can use them depending on your skill level. You can use them for a various array of different types of things. And when you reach an accelerated level of it, you can communicate to much higher dimensional energies. It is no different to crystal technology.
Okay. All right. Whoa, we can go down so many paths here. So for those who still need a little bit more of an understanding. So when I say rods, are they sticks? Does it matter what type of material they are made of? Do you have to
Mhm,
buy them from like a specialty store? Can they be
mhm,
two sticks, like wooden sticks, metal sticks? Does
mhm,
it really matter? And then, going back and asking the question, when, the Western world uses is just finding water sources, like,
mhm,
how does it find the water source? You sort of connected
mhm,
to, minerals and, but is the rods finding minerals when they're looking for water?
mhm. Yeah, okay, so let's break it down. So
Yes, please.
traditionally, or I would say what's most popular is an L shape. So if you think of dowsing rods, they're two L shapes, right? Even if you go back further than that, it could be used as a Y shape wood. So there's different ways that you can utilize them. Again, because dowsing is not limited to one object, right? So dowsing rods are just one form of dowsing. Again, pendulum swinging, all of these type, they're all forms of dowsing. And this is a little bit layered, so let me kind of break it down for you. Essentially, there's different components to using any type of dowsing. So going back from the rods, okay, um, you have to understand that the human body is a form of organic technology. So your actual physical body is the dowsing tool first. Okay. Well, humans just don't remember this. Like they just have no idea what the human body is. It's extremely advanced. It is like a crystal. It is a form of a dowsing tool itself. And then you have your electromagnetic field and your biofield. Now, when you use the dowsing tool of any type, including my rods, you are working with those tools as an extension of the electromagnetic field. The reason it only works with certain elements and minerals is because they respond to the electromagnetics of your field. Okay. So my particular dowsing rods are made of copper. You can use copper, brass, you can use wood, you can use other forms of metal. Like people can even make them out of clothes hangers. You can just kind of bend them into shape. I wouldn't really recommend that, although you can do it. It's possible. I know of people who have had it work for them. You can have different elements combined with it. You can have other crystals on it. You can have wooden handles. For me personally, I like pure copper.
Okay,
I just
got it.
want pure copper. Brass can be a little bit heavier, which can influence the swing, and to cause it to be not as accurate. So I like to stick with copper because it's lightweight. Now, the history of these elements goes all the way back to Atlantis. All right, this goes back to the talkings of Plato, what he taught. He said that copper was used for very advanced practices. Crystals were used in Atlantis. You have crystals in your brain, you have water throughout your body. These are all different forms of minerals and elements. Humans just don't know how the hell to use them. They don't know what it is. But let me ask you a question. Why do you think all of our weapons are made from minerals and elements? Why do you think that internet, all of our modern technology uses minerals and elements? Silica, Silicon Valley. This is all about minerals and elements. Our whole economy, everything actually runs off the use of energy systems, minerals and elements. Why do you think the world's struggling right now? Because minerals and elements are being held up in the Strait of Hormuz. You understand? Like, that's what's actually being held up, or other natural elements like fertilizer and stuff like that. But they're all organic elements from the planet. If you go back and you talk about things like the Anunnaki, oh, they came here to mine gold, or they came to for other minerals. Everything revolves around minerals and elements. If extraterrestrials, right, even though I think they're already here and always have been, if you were to say, oh, they're coming now, what do you think they want? Do you think they're not going to be interested in minerals and elements? They're not going to be interested in your technology of your body, the organic technology of your body? It just goes back to the same thing, minerals and elements. That's it. This planet might be special because it holds and harvest certain minerals and elements, including your human body, okay, and your human field. So again, humans have fallen consciousness. They got no idea about any of these things. They complain about being manipulated. They'll go into satanic cults and all these other things. And they're like, oh, they're eating babies. And it's like, yeah, and why do you think that is? See, they don't understand. Like, you've got to, humans have to go back and remember these important elements of the field. They don't have control over their field. How do you think the Matrix programs you? Because you don't control your field. You're unconscious of your field. That's where sovereignty comes in. So I had to go a little bit, dive, deeper into this because there is a science behind it. Humans don't understand that. You'll go online and they'll say, oh, it's the odometer effect. And oh, it's just your subconscious manipulating muscles and that's how they'll say that dowsing rods are working. And it's like, oh, okay, so what's the subconscious then? They don't know how to answer that. So they'll say that these tests are really advanced, but not really because they don't know what the subconscious is. They're like, oh, it's just coming from your subconscious. It's like, yeah, can you explain what that is? No, you can't, do you? Because you don't know what the subconscious is. It's obviously some higher aspect or something that you can't physically see in this dimension. So you don't know how to test it because it is connected to consciousness and other aspects of that person's field. Electromagnetics has a huge electricity voltage in the human body. That's where my rods really um, how they really work and why they're so fast when I swing. And that's because I have an expanded, accelerated electromagnetic field. I have very high voltage. That's why they're moving so fast. That's what an advanced dowser understands. They know how to work with it and they know how to build a relationship with the other layers of energy that they're communicating with. And I have videos also showing that it is telepathic. I don't actually have to speak out loud in my videos. I have examples on there on my profile, and you can see that it's my consciousness. It's they're responding to my vibrational thought. It's not necessarily spoken word. Spoken word is powerful, but it's also only powerful in a lower dimension, with the way humans, the level that they're resonating with. So if you have an advanced being, an alien, whatever you want to call it, they're not going to speak to you through voice. That's less likely. They would only do that to accommodate you, but it's usually telepathic. Most experiences, abductees, will tell you that they experience telepathic transmission because that's what evolved forms of life. That's how they communicate through consciousness. Now, getting back to the water and how you find water with your rods, I had to explain that so you could understand how dowsing rods could possibly locate water because water is a very powerful mineral. So it's one of the stronger minerals like gold. That's the other thing you can find as well. You can use the rods to locate them because minerals work in conjunction with each other in a certain way. So when my rods swing, it's a magnetism. It feels literally like a magnet pulling it. It's not a telekinesis type of, oh, I'm looking at an object, I'm going to make it move. A lot of people think that that's what dowsing rods are. So they go, "Can you test it? Can you put it in a pipe and see if it moves if you talk to it?" And I'm like, "It's not connected to my electromagnetic field. It literally is an extension of me. It's a teamwork. I'm working with other beings, I'm working with myself, my consciousness, technology of my body. That it's like a teamwork thing. So that's how you can find water, and sometimes it's higher aspects also guiding people. It depends on the user, so there's a variation, but there's certain elements and minerals that are more powerful than the other.
Got it. Thanks for that explanation. You really sort of explained it really, really well. And just listening to what you're saying, Arena, it makes sense. It really does. Um, in your what you were just sharing, there's a few questions that popped up. When someone does dowsing, does the dowsing, whatever they're using, like in your case, copper, other people may use sticks or whatever it may be, does it become its own energy source? Does it have an energy? So it's your energy now connecting with it. Like it's like when you initiate something, is there
Hmm.
like an initiation? And the more you use it, like when you go to
Mhm.
holy places and you have priests and pundits, they come, and when they chant, that whole area becomes such a strong positive vortex energy. So
Mhm.
when you using your rods, or somebody or in the second follow-up question, can anybody do that? So, and then going back to the first question, does it come its own energy source? It's like, oh,
Mhm.
Irena, yes, oh, I'm connecting with her again, oh, let's connect. And then there's this
Mhm.
chain, or like some type of chain connection.
Yep, I'm gonna answer the second question first because it's much shorter. Um, I think that anyone can do dowsing. You only need consciousness and the human technology of the body and the field. So everyone can potentially learn it. Can everyone use dowsing rods as the preferred dowsing tool? No. It is much more it's much more narrow, and very few people have accomplished the level of dowsing with rods that I have accomplished. So, um, and that's I'm not saying that from my ego. I'm actually just saying that to you. Like it's like as a fact, there's really not that many people that can do it because it seems to be from like other rod users that I've spoken to. It just happens with them. It's just almost like Harry Potter wands. It's an ability that just chooses you, and you might not be as strong as maybe using some other tools. I can use an array of different ones. I think it just has to do with my actual level of voltage and the fact that I do mediumship already. So my radio stations are open, whereas not everyone's stations are open. Um, Now, to answer your other one, that's another, there's many layers of questions to that as well. Again, it's really a unified team collaboration when you use rods and you're speaking to other beings. I can pull through people who are deceased. It's not something I do a lot. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's more so if I really need to find out information about, if they are missing or they were murdered or something like that, that's the only time you really need to do that. I don't believe in having to do seances to call up people that, like, it's just not necessary. Like, if you are accessing your higher self, and or you have guides that are quite powerful and you have created a strong channel, a radio signal with them, you don't need anything else. They can already access your, akashic records, or your akashic records, depending on what reality you're limited to accessing. But yeah, you can just extract all of that information. So if anyone wants to use it, integration of the higher self is number one. You cannot use the rods to you can't just, like, rely on them. "Oh, what should I eat tomorrow? What color do I look best in?" Like, I don't use them for stuff like that, obviously, but I think some people who have a dependency, which a lot of humans do, on anything external like psychedelics and all of that, they depend on it. No. If you wanna be a master in dowsing, you must master the integration of the higher self and establishing those connections and your own sovereignty first. Then those other things will respond like that real quick. So it's about accessing and knowing your own technology and abilities first, which I did for many, many, many years. And then the ability as you practice. Or if you find something, like some people can pick up a pendulum and it's like, boom, go. It just connects with you. So again, we all have the ability to find the thing that we're in tune with and that responds to us. And then the more you practice it, the better it gets. Now, when you're speaking to other beings, so I can use the rods to locate spirits, certain vortex points, and yeah, to speak to other beings. Now, I speak to my guides in pretty much all of my videos. I've created a very strong established relationship with them. I have a very clear radio signal, so it's not like I'm going to do a seance and I've got to do a cleansing ceremony, it's no. I can pick them up and they just start working. The key, though, is to not abuse it and to limit how much you use them. So I use them about 3 times a week, to be honest, 3 to 4 times a week, for no more than an hour. That's it. Don't depend on them. Okay, you should be able to access most answers through your own higher self and through your own connection to your guides and ancestors or whatever it is. I use the rods mostly to access harder information or very specific information. Like I was saying to you earlier, I'm just about to post my investigations video on the assassination of JFK. So I use my guides, who are not limited to this space time reality, to be able to give me and extract the accurate information of those occurrences and observations in that aspect of the timeline, which is like remote viewing. Basically, it's very, very similar. Remote viewers are just using their astral body or aspects of consciousness to be able to extract information from different parts of the timeline. So I can go into other timelines. I can ask about what is the highest probability that's going to occur in this timeline, which I've got videos on. What is the economic forecast? Is this going to happen to this person? So they can work from the current vibrational trajectory of the timeline. But future readings are harder because timelines always shift and free will is always in occurrence. So it's not set in stone.
I don't know if you're reading my thoughts because everything you sort of just said, I go, that's the, oh, she said that. Let me do a follow up on that. And when I'm thinking about it, you answer the questions, and I'm like, you're making my job so easy. Yeah, so it's, yeah, wow, you really gave such a thorough explanation, Arena. It's just amazing. And with the work that you do, with the because you're a master with the dowsing rods, you connect this to you're an investigative mediumship, and you've been doing this work for years and years. And you even said, hey, Banu, is there anything in particular that maybe you have some questions or you want to go down the rabbit hole? And I said, I don't know what I should ask you. I go, you sort of put me on the spot. But as we were just conversing, just yesterday, I went to see Mr. Spielberg's movie that just came out.
Ah,
Full
okay,
di-
yeah.
full disclosure. And movies always are a prediction of what's coming or what's already here. So I don't know if anybody's asked you, is there a connection to, the movie that Mr. Spielberg's making with what's
Mhm.
happening in the world today? Is he being guided by higher spirits, or does he have his own team of spirits? Because I honestly think those who are very creative in the movie industry, they have these connections. They know where
Oh,
to
yeah.
pull the information up. Any information around that area, it's
Mm.
exciting if you have anything to share.
I haven't specifically asked my rods in relation to those things, and I haven't seen the actual movie yet.
It's good. It's good. I
I
enjoyed it.
okay, yeah, okay, wonderful, yeah. I know people have had mixed reviews. I never I like to go in with my own fresh mind and have that experience for myself, and I like to go when the movie's empty. I don't like going with lots of people, so that's why I haven't seen it yet. Um, Look, I think that there's many different agendas that exist on this planet and reality. Which one Spielberg is in or connected to, I don't know. Would he be open to his creative senses of ESP and connection to his higher self and guides? Absolutely. Most creative artists have a very advanced way of connecting with the quantum field. They're able to pull in information, same as people who are inventors. So inventors of technology, stuff like, and innovators. They're very connected to higher aspects in the quantum field. So that's actually where they download the information from. So it's inevitable that Spielberg is working with some higher aspects, whether he is in direct communication with extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings. I don't know the exact answer to that, but on some level, he would be, or at the very least he's working with the quantum field. Like, that's where all information comes from. Okay, nothing is new here. Everything exists on some level, and you're just expanding it through your unique fractal of creativity here. But the frequencies of creativity are extremely advanced. like high resonating energy. That's why they're very powerful. So it's very sad that artists in this reality have been put down, or I guess like if you get an arts degree, or you're a good singer, like you're not necessarily going to make money and prosper in this world. It's very, very sad, because their energy is some of the most powerful. When a person's about to die and transition out of this life and the body expire, do you think that they're going to be thinking about certain finance, or like, no, they don't give a shit about any of that. Sorry, if
No,
I'm
no,
allowed to
no,
say
no, absolutely,
that word.
absolutely.
Um, I can tell you that there's a much higher probability that they're going to think of a song before they die that had an impact on them on some level, right? A random song that they experienced when they were 25, where, you know what I mean, the energy and vibration was absorbed in their memory, that their nervous system accumulated that and stored onto that memory of emotion, that they might just come back before they die and they'll think of that song. It'll have a much more, it has a much, you know what I mean, the energy, the way that it impacts the nervous system and the human mind and heart is much more powerful than a lot of the things that we are taught and educated with. So I would encourage anybody who's into creative energy to hold on to that and nurture that, because that is higher aspects of yourself connecting with you, and you're honing in frequency from the quantum field here. So I took a little bit of a detour, but that's what happens to people like Steven Spielberg. Okay. So again, I don't know what his agenda is. I don't know if he's aligned with good, or he's trying to pre-program something into the human collective for whatever agenda. I don't really know that. But I do know that, for another good example, is James Cameron. I think he did Avatar.
Titanic, yes, Avatar. Yeah.
So he did Avatar with the inspiration
Yeah.
from the taking ayahuasca, basically, or the
Oh,
trees.
really? Oh,
Yeah, yeah. So he had a sacred experience, and that's where that's why it revolves around a tree, because that's what he was shown, the roots of the tree. Like, he had a hugely spiritual experience. I think it was with ayahuasca from memory. Someone I know knew him, and they actually told me that. So he gathered all of that inspiration from highly spiritual experiences within his own journey. That is why all of the avatars, they hook into the tree. So their hair is like this, nervous system, and they plug it into the creature. It's all about consciousness, the life, the tree of life, and how they'll go to the sacred, tree, for life force energy. And I mean, it was he did such a good job. It was very advanced. His storyline, because it's quite real. Like, yeah, what he went into and dove into, but that's what he was shown apparently in his experiences.
no, it's true. It's amazing. I've seen all three of them, and they just take you to a complete different world. And his imagination, his creativity, and what he's able to muster and come up with the ideas. And like you said, through his own spiritual journey that he went through someone that shared with you, was the final product, and it's just amazing. Now, in connection to talking about frequencies, there's few things that I want to ask you. Now, the things are coming in my head now. The questions going down the rabbit hole. I want to share one personal story, Irena,
Yep.
and then the other one is going to be on Michael Jackson.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay. So I remember I'm a creative person. I sort of got into acting. And long story short, this was back in 2001. I was at a conservative acting school in British Columbia in Canada, which is
Mhm.
the west part of Canada. And I was so like focused, and I think my whole world was like me trying to get in, like whatever it takes. I don't care. Like, I'm gonna do a one man show. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I was so like determined. And I remember one day I was heading to the school. Suddenly, I started to hear voices in my head that weren't my voices.
Mhm.
They were like, "Oh yeah, you want this? Oh, you got to go do this. You got to do this." I'm sort of like looking up, as if I'm looking at my brain and saying, "Who the fuck is talking to me right now?"
Mm.
And I was like, these are not my voices. It actually scared me. And moving forward, almost like a decade later, I shared this with one of my spiritual friends. He goes, Banu, he goes, Hollywood is not all that it seems to be. And then I shared the same story that I shared with you. And he basically said that when you are sort of like in this stuck low energy and you want to give your soul away almost, you'll start to hear voices and they'll suck you in and pull you in. So it lasted maybe for a good 2, 3 weeks, but then I sort of took a step back. I go, no, I'm not going to do that. Um, there's a lot of dark forces in Hollywood,
Mhm.
and a lot of them have, and maybe you could share this through your experience, the mediumship and the work that you do, investigation. Do artists sell their souls, to the dark forces? And then, as an extension, what happened to Michael Jackson? Like, have you investigated that yet?
Yes, I have just done a Dowsing Rods video on Michael Jackson, so I'll go into that after I answer your first
Sure.
question. I don't entirely agree with what your friend said.
Okay.
I think there is a lot of darkness in Hollywood. Yeah, like that's
Yeah.
undisputed. Like
Yeah, for
that's just
sure.
I think you don't even have to be a spiritual person to know it's completely messed up, whatever energies are being, dealt with there. And that the foundations of it were probably quite negative with how the whole industry was created. And it's led by, yeah, dark forces. But I necessarily agree in the sense because I think a lot of people naturally just feel fear, and it's better to try and understand something before you get fear and before you kind of close something off. So when you actually first explain that to me, first
Yes.
of all, I don't have the context of what you were being told when you said when you had voices coming in. Now, as mediums, very different. Having voices like that is not necessarily seen as a negative thing at all. So, I my first inclination was, oh, there's a very high probability they were actually your guides or energy forms that you were connected to, which actually might have been trying to help you.
Oh
Okay.
man.
Yeah. So
I got to go
that's
back
why I
into
was like,
acting.
what is this person telling this? That's like dangerous to tell an individual that because it can
Yeah,
cause a person to go into a fear state and shut the channel off, which is what happens to most humans because
that's
they're
what. Yeah,
told that it's a bad thing. And it's really
yeah,
not necessarily a bad thing. So again, I don't know what you were being told, and you always have to have discernment because
yes,
yes, you can have negative things that can come in as well, or you can have certain just mental health things that are, making you experience, there's an array of different things that can cause it. But for me, having a voice sometimes come in has come from a very powerful place. And in some aspects of my mediumship, that's how some of it did start, especially through dreams, when I'd come in and be telepathically spoken to by like other energy forms. You could go to someone and they'll be like, oh my God, that's so bad. Oh my God, they're trying to take your soul. Like, okay, that will come from someone who hasn't claimed their sovereignty yet. Okay, because nothing can take your soul. Okay, I know that there's an array of stuff online that's going to tell you the opposite of that, and they're going to tell you to fear it, and they're trying to suck your soul. What are you talking about? Like, those people do not understand the construct. Like, do you really think that there's someone who's there who's just preying on people to take your soul away? No, that is inaccurate. That is a manifested interpretation of darker collective energies that exist within this reality. That's what the devil is. That's what demonic entities are. It's just parasitic stuff. Okay? There's no guy or people or energies that are just there trying to drag you down to hell and that's just their life purpose and their whole existence. No, everything in the universe constantly contracts and expands. Okay? Constantly. It's constantly evolving. So that fractal or that aspect of energy cannot stay in that one frequency for all of eternity. It's going to shift at some point. And so it's going to evolve into another vibrational timeline. So that's why there is no darker aspect or force that's just there to constantly bring you down. There's mediums who'll tell you that they've spoken to darker forces, the devil, they were in hell. No, they didn't. They spoke to a lower manifestation of darker energies in the collective consciousness that manifested through that being because their belief system and programming identifies with the Christian world. If you go to a Buddhist world, you go to the Middle East, they will experience a manifestation of something different, a deity who's a darker force. Like, this is like, come on, people. It's just, we created it, we give life force to it. So sovereignty has to be brought up in this conversation because, yes, there's darker forces in the world, but we are the ones allowing it. And they're just parasitic. That's it. They're not powerful. It's child's play of a lower dimension. You come from the exact same source. Who told you they had any more power than you? Nobody. You were just programmed with that. You know what I mean? You didn't, when you were 1 years old, you didn't know that. You didn't have any fear. And that's why they can still see the gray lines between other dimensions. They can see those forces still when they're a child because they haven't had that programming instilled where they cut it off. So it could have been your guides, it could have been ancestral energies, it could have been your higher mind
Where were
trying to.
you? Where were you like when I needed you? Because I could be like a celebrity right now somewhere. Like, oh man.
Or
Oh
never
man.
do it for those reasons. Don't
Yeah.
ever do it for fame because it'll be, yeah, if you're not very grounded too, it can
Yeah,
be
yeah.
destructive for you. But yeah, if you feel like there's anything ever nefarious behind it, you have the power to just go, I know what you're trying to do, but you can't do anything to my field because I own it.
And I
You know
think
what I mean? That's how you treat it.
it's interesting what you just said. You got to own it. And I think back then I didn't own it because, I was very naive. And most people who get into that world, right, we just trust and we listen to the people around us and we go with what we are capable of knowing. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And so, knowing what you shared with me, if I get those voices, I'll be like, let's bring it on because I will now be able to tell it's good, is it bad, who am I
Yeah.
giving my energy to? And what you said is being sovereign. Like, you gotta, there's that children's book that says you gotta fill your bucket, right? So, we gotta fill our bucket with the sovereignness of, who we are. And once that bucket is full, then we get the right frequencies coming or connecting, guiding us. Going back to the conversation that we are
Mhm.
having, you look at videos in the last couple of months with Jim Carrey coming out. So there's like, I don't know how deep you've gone down the rabbit hole with
Mhm.
Hollywood and whatnot. Like, you
Mhm.
you sign papers and they don't know. Like Jim Carrey, I didn't know what I signed, and some people say he's not alive. Like, actually, he's dead. Like, have you gone through that rabbit hole?
I haven't checked on Jim Carrey. Uh I had a few requests for it, but I was like, it didn't feel like the right time, or I didn't feel particularly called to doing it. There's an array of different people that you could, ask about. I'm not as into the conspiracy where people are like, "Oh, that's a replacement clone." I'm sorry, I just don't fully buy into that because I'm more aware of the different fractals and how they exist. Cloning does exist, but I don't think it's in the way that people are necessarily aware of. I think they just think that your souls can be extracted and sold, and it's like just so easy to do that. No, I don't. No, not necessarily. Because that fractal here has many other fractals in other space time realities and timelines, and they have the higher self. So it's not easy to just rip something away and then just use it for whatever nefarious reasons they have. Even if they would, it'd be a temporary thing. You can't just hold a soul ransom. It's not possible. Anyone who says that doesn't understand the true construct, and is, you know what I mean. They're probably not at the level where they're, yeah, again, accessing the sovereignty. Now, sovereignty is freedom. It is true freedom. It's accessing your power. It's remembering who you really are. It's remembering that you are an extension of the original source. Okay, that's how you access your own God codes. That's how you do it. You cannot do it without sovereignty because if without sovereignty, you're living in a fear state. It's dictated by fear.
And it's so interesting that you say that because as kids, me and my friends, we would have these conversations. They're like, "Remember when we were in high school here? Like, we were in Canada. they would talk about something, this acid rain, like if it falls on you, like you're gonna die, like it's going to burn a hole in your skin. Oh, what about the year 2000? The world is going to come to an end. And like, so it's just fear on top of fear and top of fear.
Mhm.
And then you're stuck in the matrix and you live in fear. And I'm happy that you brought that up. So where that sovereignness comes through is like when you can sort of break through all that,
Yep.
you see the light in everything. You see the truth.
You you're accessing the multidimensional self. So when you start accessing the multidimensional self, whatever's trying to get you control you down here in the lower plane of reality of this fractal, they can't control what's up here, okay, with the higher aspects. That's how it's so powerful because you're no longer relying on this one aspect of fractal to process comprehension and power. You can't do it. You're in a lower dimension. You're never going to be like it's like a container that can only hold so much energy and voltage. You have to go to the higher aspects of yourself to be able to experience the fuller embodiment of who you really are and what you really are as a fractal.
And that's the
So
journey, right? That's the journey that hopefully everybody can go on and become that sovereign light almost, right?
that's
Because,
what enlightenment actually
yeah.
is. It's just going into a harmonized, unified state of beyond what this fractal holds. You realize that you are just the extension of source energy contracting and expanding. And that's it. And that's it's not a weakness, it's a power because you become one with everything. So you are unlimited to what you can access. You have no fear to the darker aspects because you know that they're from the exact same source and that they're in their temporary states as well. So this is a game. You start to move freely. It's fun.
Yeah, it is a game. And, with games, there's always, a winner and a loser. Um,
Is there though? Is there though? That's the
but,
paradox of a lower dimension.
mm, like, I'm just thinking about, like, the board, like Monopoly, which is a universal game, right? So the game
Right.
is to, get houses and build hotels. And then eventually each player runs out of money. So they've sort of lost. So that one person wins the game. So,
No.
no?
No. No. That's the game. No disrespect or anything. That's the game of the lower dimensional survival mechanisms of processing reality.
Okay.
So you want to reach your sovereignty. There is no losing ever, even in death. It is the expiration of one fractal's body. That is it. It is not the end. It is infinite. The game never ends.
Got it.
It
I see what
is
you're saying.
it's that's what I mean.
Got it.
You're
Got
no
it.
longer playing to their rules of a winner and loser. That's the sovereignty aspect of it. You are free because that winner and loser of Monopoly, that's only in this paradigm or an old timeline, right? Of how things of survival have been running off. So you want to just bypass all of that and go, oh, actually, I'm not limited to their rules. I never was limited to their rules. What are they talking about? They can't, like, I can never lose, And then you start adding, you make your own game that's not even limited to that. You go, oh my gosh, there's a monopoly in that dimension with my fractal here, 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 here in those timelines. Oh, I'm just gonna play with all of them. So again, that's it. You want to merge the energy of all of those fractals into a much bigger empowered avatar state.
I love
The other question, I know that it's almost an hour, but I know you wanted me to ask about Michael Jackson, by the way. Did you have any other questions about that? I just didn't want you to miss out on the
no,
Michael Jackson.
no. If we do have time, after if you do with Michael Jackson, the Catholic Church. Have you gone down that rabbit hole?
Okay, so that's something I will be going down. It's something that I've been very careful with because it is a very powerful organization. So sometimes people will see me ask like dowsing rods videos and I won't ask certain ones and they'll get angry and I'm like, I have to kind of protect my platform. Like, I don't want my own platform to get cancelled, and I don't want to put myself in certain jeopardy. It's just not worth it for me. But eventually, as the energies shift and it becomes more easier for me to be able to do stuff, of course, I'll be first on board with doing that. But a lot of people aren't ready to hear the truth about a lot of those organizations, but they're really just a business. Okay.
Yes. I don't know if you've ever jumped down the road of with Mother Teresa.
Not of Mother Teresa. Mary Magdalene, I've probably explored more just because it's a much more powerful aspect of consciousness, similar to Jesus or the Jesus figure. Yeah, not so much Mother Teresa.
Got it. So let's end off with Michael Jackson in the minutes that we have left. I wish we could. Like the time went by so quick. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Irina, I have to definitely bring you back on. Yeah, but so have you
Sure.
done dowsing with Michael Jackson or investigative mediumship around that? Is that
Yeah, so I did a session. You can find it on my social media platforms, and it's called "The Truth About of Michael Jackson." And they basically said that he actually was not what people I think have been claiming in regards to the pedophilia claims and all of that. They've actually suggested that he was quite framed and he was actually murdered intentionally and his death was sabotaged and that he somewhat knew it before he died. um, I don't know if he was protecting children. I know there were some people who wanted to know specifically if that's why he was around children. uh, look, he was a complex character who definitely had his own struggles, but all of those claims, no, they were not accurate at all. And let me just say that my rods don't usually hold back, so if they don't think someone was killed, like if it was suspicious, they'll say that it wasn't suspicious. You know what I mean? But they definitely said that his was. Um, and there were agendas behind it. And there were some people who were like, no, the FBI have released that they found all of these things in his room since then, comments. And it was like, yeah, if you knew about what I'd investigated about a lot of public figures or powerful people or people that were a threat, they did it to all of them too. And the JFK one that I just did, you'll see that they did it in there too. The CIA actually did set up certain things to make it look like a certain way. They even said that he was assassinated from a certain building that had all these guns, and but he wasn't killed from that building at all. They said that he was actually shot from a completely different location. So these things are set up, they are implanted. It's not like I did it on Marilyn Monroe too. And now, recently, I don't know if you've heard, in the past couple of months, they have had people investigate it with now the new AI technology. They've been able to frame the exact layout of the room of Marilyn Monroe when she was discovered and found dead. And all those investigators are like, what the hell? This makes no sense at all. Like, she was absolutely framed and murdered, to make it look like she knew political information. She basically experienced a political assassination from information that she knew. And the Kennedys were most likely involved. I don't know if they were the only ones. Um, there was definitely some other like intelligence, faction that was involved in her death. But yeah, it happens all the time. It definitely happened to Michael Jackson. And they'll say, oh, but this person that was close to them, they said this about them. So he has to be because they witnessed it. Yeah. So did Marilyn Monroe's best friend. And he was lying. And my rods confirmed that he had lied about his claims because he was also part of some agenda. These people, you don't know who was closest to them or the people working with them. Those people have agendas too. They don't live in the same world as you. These are people who have extremely uh famous like wealth, like they don't live in the same world. There's people constantly trying to get something from them or use them or abuse them. That's the life that these people live. Or they take the path where they can use their ability and power to abuse other people. And we've seen that throughout Hollywood with some other people as well. But my rods don't hold back with that. So if someone is guilty, they'll just say that they're guilty. If someone's not, then they'll say that it's not. And I make sure that I ask many questions. You can't just ask one dowsing rods question because there could be many other questions that might change what they mean by that one question. So that's why a lot of my videos go for quite much longer than other dowsing rods users, that because I'm not the only one online doing them. But yeah, I ask many different questions because then it really does rule out if they are saying yes, yes, this happened, yes, no, this happened. You rule out that whole theory because there's otherwise, how can they get 10 of those questions wrong when they're all leading to the exact same outcome, which maybe that person was innocent? It would be a confused, distorted, like there'd be many confused, distorted answers that don't make sense, right? So if they're all aligning to it, then that's much safer to come to that conclusion.
No, absolutely. And talking about conclusion, I wish we can continue on, but we're both very busy, and I love the work that you're doing. I'll definitely have to have you come back again, Arena, and just
Sure.
continue on this conversation. But first of all, thank you for sharing everything. One, you gave a wonderful, a baseline of how, dowsing works, and I appreciate that. You shared some insights. And it seems like we just sort of just touched, just like the icing. There's so much more that we can continue and have conversations about. Just as you were sharing, I was just thinking about Justin Bieber, because in the last year or so, there's a lot of things that he's coming out of as well too, and different discussions, and that's for another day. Before I let you go, the last question that I have is there anything that I did not ask you that you were hoping that I would ask you? Because sometimes we get, in these conversations, and I don't keep a record of like, I have to ask you this question, this question. I just go with the flow. Is there anything that I didn't ask that that you wished I did and you can answer?
I mean, I think generally we had a very well-rounded conversation. I try to answer uh from the perspective of a teacher. That's why I answer them in a thorough way, and I talk about the construct, the different components, and how we can get to that conclusion with something. That's how I post. But if there was anything that I want to emphasize before we go, it's really the human sovereignty, and that any real teacher who is really tapped in and accessing their own sovereignty, that's the number one thing they will teach you. If a spiritual teacher is not teaching you how to access your own sovereignty, and high self-integration, they are not a real teacher. Okay? They are a limited teacher. That is the only thing that matters at the end of the day. That is the ultimate thing of accessing your power and freedom, and and all the higher abundance of higher frequencies. Okay? So just be mindful. Anyone who's teaching you fear, they haven't accessed their sovereignty yet.
And we're going to end it off there. Arena, thank you for coming on and sharing great wisdom. The world that we live in right now is definitely going through a transition, and I pray and hope that people sort of look within and start making those strong reflections and really seeing which path they want to go on. And you've definitely shared wonderful insights. And those who do want to connect with you, I'll definitely share the your YouTube channel and your Instagram. And so as we end off, thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time. All the way from
Thank you.
Australia. Yeah.
Yep. Thanks for having me.